Hello, everyone. How is everyone? Right, this is the grifter panel. We're all the Bitcoin grifters. I think we'll work down the line, let everyone introduce themselves, talk about what they do. We'll start with Aubrey. Please introduce yourself.
Thanks, Peter. It's great to be here. I'm Aubrey Strobel, and I'm the host of The Observation. I also am the marketing and comms advisor for Trust Machines.
Hi, I'm Lina. I'm the creator of The Little Hodler, which you might know. Thank you, which you might know better than me. Started this during the pandemic in quarantine. I started drawing the comics for The Little Hodler, which you might have seen around, which then became really popular, and then I thought I could maybe make this into something tangible or huggable, and then that's how I created the plushies, and that's what I do.
Hi, my name is Layah Heilpern. I'm a big Bitcoin and freedom advocate. I have a podcast called The Layah Heilpern Show where we talk again about more Bitcoin and more freedom. I have a book called Undressing Bitcoin, and you might see me on Fox talking about Bitcoin and freedom and just more Bitcoin and freedom. So thank you so much for being here.
Hi, I'm Roman. I'm the founder of Blocktrainer. Blocktrainer is one of the largest German-speaking Bitcoin-only education channels and platforms. We have a lot of people that are writing for our platform, for our site, blocktrainer.de. But it's only German-speaking and quite big, and education is what we do, and the reason why Germany has so much full nodes, Bitcoin full nodes, is that we do promote Bitcoin to drive your own Bitcoin full node, and that's what we do. It's a growing community, yeah.
So what a great panel. My name's Peter. I host a podcast called What Bitcoin Did, and I own a football club called Real Bedford, the greatest football team in the world. And I feel very honoured to have this panel. None of us actually know what this panel's really about because they told us the Bitcoin audience, but I think it's really meant to be about you lot here. You're the Bitcoin audience. So we're going to talk about you lot, and then hopefully if we've got some time at the end, I'll allow some questions for our amazing guests. But I'll start with you, Aubrey. When you think about the Bitcoin audience, it's somebody you create content for. It sometimes can feel like quite a singular audience, but sometimes quite a secular audience. Like, how do you think about the audience when you're making content? How much does it influence what you do?
Yeah, it's a great question. One of the things that I was looking for when I created my podcast was finding a sponsor for the podcast that I felt really represented the Bitcoin audience. And so I had the opportunity to partner with a lot of those bigger exchanges, but at the end of the day, Cash App to me was a big on-ramp for people. They only offer Bitcoin right now, and I felt like it was the easiest way to convey a message. And it's sort of how I began at Lolly, trying to give people products that have a great UX, great UI, that people are interacting with, and they feel like it's meeting them where they're at in their Bitcoin journey. So, Lolly was obviously a Bitcoin rewards application. It helped people who didn't feel like investors get involved in Bitcoin. If they're not investor, that's fine. Everyone shops online, so that was a great way to get people involved. And with Cash App, it was a partnership that I decided to do because it felt like most people have some sort of payments app, and it was very simple and really love the Cash App team over there. But in terms of content and who I'm talking to, I'm trying to talk to people that are everyday people, just like my age, that feel like it's approachable to them, and try to convey it in a way that doesn't feel like it's something that's only reserved for a certain group of people. So I think talking about that in a very human way on the podcast and creating content like that doesn't feel so far is kind of the route I've taken.
Lina, the same question for you, but also I just want to add to that in terms of the age demographic of your audience, because I'd love to know what you set out to do, because by virtue of what you've created, I ended up having to explain Bitcoin to one of my daughter's friends.
That's a good thing, right? Start them early.
Amazing thing.
I set out to I actually just started the comics for fun. As I said, I started it in quarantine. I was sitting in a quarantine hotel, and I had time on my hands, and I started doing these comics, and I kind of found my audience by chance. But I think it's a very widespread audience, a very varied audience. It's very simple concepts. I try to explain Bitcoin simply, one concept at a time, in pictures, make it friendly. Like Little Hodler is sort of the non-toxic side of Bitcoin. And so it speaks, obviously, it's often a bit too complex for kids. So kids are not going to read, at least younger kids are not going to read the comics. They might like the comics, they might like the colors. And of course they like hugging the plushies. So it is a way for Bitcoiners to talk about Bitcoin. They can, for example, send the comics to their friends and family, their no-coiner colleagues or whatever. But they can also give the plushies to their kids, and start them up, get them acquainted with Bitcoin, give them something that you can touch. Because you can't touch Bitcoin, but you can hug the little hodler. Some people buy it for their dogs as well, which, yeah, you can do that if you want.
Who has a little hodler? Hands up. Who hasn't got a little hodler? Lots of people not just putting their hands up. One or the other. Well, you're selling them here, right?
We have them here. We made 3 designs. We made this one, the little Dutch girl. We made the Dutch cheese hodler, and we made the little dude, which is the one with the joint.
Okay.
I actually didn't get the dude. I wanted to get one for myself, but it sold out in the first hour. So, yeah.
Well, hopefully some of you go and get them and support Lina and what she's doing, because it's amazing. Layah, how about yourself? How do you think about your audience with the content you create?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the question sort of is almost, what is a Bitcoiner? And that's kind of a question that I don't like, because I feel like although I love divisiveness, I feel like that's sort of too divisive. But I would say my audience are people who value freedom. Bitcoin is this decentralized network. It's censorship resistant, non-confiscatable. We saw the importance of that, obviously, over the last 2 years, particularly earlier this year with Justin Trudeau. And so I tend to think the audience are people who value freedom. And although we like to consider Bitcoin to be apolitical, I just think everything is inherently political. So then I tend to think that my Bitcoin audience are people who tend to be more libertarians, outside of the system. And I do find that to be quite accurate, just given the amount of news networks and given the specific news networks who tend to cover Bitcoin, and then also how they cover Bitcoin. So let's take Fox News, for example. They seem to be talking a lot about Bitcoin in a very positive way. But then if you then look at like CNN or MSNBC, other American news outlets, they tend to take a more negative approach. And then the same is true for the UK. So there's a new organization in the UK, which Peter and I were discussing. I'm a fan. Peter's not so much of a fan. Of GB News is the new channel in the UK, and they tend to provide more of a, I'd say, right of center political approach, and they're covering Bitcoin.
Very right of center.
Not quite Fox News, but right of center for the UK, and I think the UK actually needs it. And actually, they're going to be here at the Bitcoin conference, which I think is amazing. So to answer the question, I think it's people who value freedom, people who are happy to not be silenced, people who are happy to sort of go against the grain and ask questions. And that's really important. So yeah, kind of right of center libertarians.
And Roman, yourself?
Oh yeah. So I started my channel in 2018 because in 2017 in the hype was so much marketing like ICOs and all this shit, and I was at this time I was an IT project manager for Ingram Micro, and I thought my free time it's good to explain what really behind the blockchain is. And so over the time my channel turned into a Bitcoin only channel a few years ago, and today it's like the people want to invest in a world where fiat money is decreasing in value, and they think their money has to work for them. You have to invest your money to make more money, to save money, but this is bullshit. It's like a very big casino we all live in, and this is crazy. We destroy our economic world. We destroy our possibility to work and get paid for work because it's better to speculate, and it's crazy. So this what Bitcoin gives to our society is to save again in the money, because you have the choice to save now. And in the German society, a lot of people are saving on the bank account. It's really crazy. They don't invest. And my part is to explain how destroyed our fiat system is, how much damage this caused to our society, and how they can save their money in just save in a new technology. Like they know this, what you get is not that you get more money in fiat in the future. It's more like you get something no one can take from you, and you know it's limited to 21 million. And my plan is not being toxic or something else. It's more like being objective, talking about the good sides from Bitcoin, and dropping the Bitcoin orange pill bomb in the middle of the German society, like in the mainstream media and so on. And this is what we do with our brand.
One of the things all of us have to deal with when creating content is dealing with the audience. You get positive, sometimes negative feedback, sometimes very negative feedback. How much do you consider, I'll start with you, Roman, how much do you consider the feedback, and how much does that influence the content you create from that?
Feedback from?
So someone might drop you an email and say, I really dislike this show with this person. Someone might comment on YouTube and call you a prick. How much do you how much do you consider the content, how influential the audience feedback? Do you ignore it? Do you tread your own journey, or do you listen to it?
No, I think it's very important, because when I started my channel, it was such a small community, and so the most people have problems like, oh, something is working bad in your life, and this is a point where you can set the Bitcoin idea. But if you don't understand the problem, you don't understand the solution. And the bigger the fiat problems are, like inflation and all these things, the more the people are interested in a solution like Bitcoin. So you have to hear the feedback. What's the point the people are interested in to bring your content in this part of interest. Yeah.
Layah, we talked about this previously. What about yourself? How influenced are you by the audience that follows you, that responds to you? Do you pay more attention to the people who are positive? Do you care about the people who are negative? How do you think about that?
Also a great question, because a lot of people want to create content, but they're afraid of the backlash. So I think there are two main parts to this. The first part is creating content is ultimately a business, and so you need to be creating content which works, right? So that feedback you must take into account. So, you created a video about this. Nobody was interested? Well, okay, now let's try something else. So you want to keep trying until you find content that people are interested in. So that's number one. Then the second point is, it doesn't actually matter what people think of you. And I know that might sound sort of like she doesn't care, but ultimately, if you care what you're doing, and the message that you put out comes from a place of authenticity and love, not to sound so esoteric, but if it does come from a place of that, then I think it's okay. It doesn't really matter. I get a lot of hate, but I believe in what I stand for. Particularly over the last 2 years, I was very against the lockdowns. I didn't like how they were confiscating people's bank accounts in Canada. Bitcoin is a huge part of that, because obviously people were sending Bitcoin to the truckers in Canada. But I would rather be absolutely hated by, brainwashed individuals than be silent and see the world just crumble. So I personally really care about my message. This isn't a career. It's a mission of freedom that I strongly believe in, and so I don't really care. People say to me all the time, "Thank you." Thank you. That's nice. I also come from a place where I come from London, and I come from like a very woke environment. And the people that I went to school with, for example, hate what I say. I get messages all the time. I get DMs from people that I went to school with telling me that they are embarrassed to even know me. And so that's, it's not nice. But like I said, I believe in my mission. I'm so grateful to be here. You guys, you gave me a round of applause. That's very nice. So so this matters more. Getting these messages across matter more. And it is what it is. I also get a lot of love. So as long as you believe in your mission, then honestly, who cares? Just be true to you, have that integrity, and that's all that matters.
Lina, I'm going to do a slightly different question for you because I can't imagine anyone sends you anything hateful. And if they do, they're probably a psychopath. But you're doing something slightly different in that you're creating content via the virtue of creating like a little toy that a kid wants to play with, or maybe some adult wants to play with, or give as a gift, or a dog wants to chew. How do you think about and by the way, it's just what an amazing business you've built just from an idea. I mean, it's incredible. You've told me you're selling thousands of these things, which is incredible. How do you decide where to go next? Because like this could grow into something just huge. So how do you decide where to go next with this?
I think that's the thing that many people have who run a business, probably yourself too. You have loads of ideas, but you don't have the time to make them happen. So you have to prioritize, right? And in that regard, audience is incredibly important because you got to stay in touch with the people that you're serving, the people that you're creating content for, the people that you create your products for, what they care about. So in that sense, that criticism is very important. So you stay in touch with them. So they let you know, this is what I want, this is what I don't want. And in my case, that's a comic book that everybody wants. So I've been working really hard to make that happen, which has happened before Christmas, hopefully, or probably. So and that is how I decide what I want to do. And then, of course, there's many things with a character where I have this new experience that I have absolute freedom, that I can do anything that I want because I created it from nothing, so to say, and I can make it do whatever I want. So I can do animations with it. I can do the book. I can do products, and I can basically fit it into things as I like, which is really cool. But then also, as I said, there's loads of things that I can do, loads of things that I want to do, but then you got to prioritize, right? Also, I just wanted to say, if people say they're embarrassed to know you, that's a they problem, not a you problem, right?
I appreciate that.
Yeah. I just wanted to also, I know the question, you didn't ask it to me, but about the criticism, I think there's constructive criticism, and then there is people calling you a prick on YouTube. And that's where you gotta make the difference. I know, especially if you're on Twitter, and you might not think I get a lot of hate, but I do. I sometimes I do. Especially on Twitter, sometimes it gets a lot because basically the entire internet can see what you do and they can tell you their opinion. If you take it too hard too much, especially maybe comments that are not that smart, then it might stop you from doing what you do. It might make you think too much about, am I doing the right thing or not? So what you're saying is very important, that you got to differentiate there. At the same time, you got to take the criticism, because if you lose touch with your audience, in my case, for example, I try to make Bitcoin very simple, and I know that the more you get into Bitcoin, the more you understand the subject matter, the harder it might become for you to explain it in a simple way. So it's very important to stay in touch with that audience that likes your content. For me, it's important to keep making comics that are simple. Like, I notice that if I make a comic that's a bit more complex, I get the feedback right away. So in that sense, it's really important to hear and to listen to your audience.
And Aubrey, you recently launched your podcast. You're a bit new coming in, but already aware of how crazy a world this Bitcoin world is. How influential was that in you establishing a new brand in a quite busy market?
Well, it's an interesting market to be building a new podcast in, but I've been on Twitter a long time, so I'm used to feedback that is, maybe negative or something like that. But I will say, if you do read every comment, that's probably not the best use of your time, because it's just, you're going to drive yourself crazy. But the other thing is actually negative engagement is also good, and people don't realize that. I remember I had this tweet that went off one time, and it was honestly kind of a bad take on my end, but I was like, I'm not going to delete it because this is doing numbers. And even that's not a great strategy or approach, but it does bring awareness to your platform or whatever. I don't think that's a long-term strategy. I think trying to bait people basically for content is not what I try to put out there. But yeah, it is a little tough starting out a brand new podcast during a bear market, because naturally interest is most of the time correlated with price. And it's harder, but I actually kind of like the challenge to be building publicly in a bear market and having this opportunity to talk to people, because this is when we should be talking to people. And it gets so messy and loud, and it's kind of nice to have the time to just think and strategize instead of trying to keep up with everything that's going on that always feels that way. It's like a rat race, when things get really crazy. So I'm kind of enjoying it, actually. Yeah.
Cool. I'll jump around a bit now. Layah, how much responsibility do you feel as a platform holder, as someone distributing content, with regards to the content you provide, the people you talk to, the messages that you put out? Do you feel any responsibility? And does that drive any of the decisions you make?
I think that when you have a platform, naturally, there's power and influence. And as they say, with power comes responsibility. So, of course, there is, I am responsible for what I say. And that is why when I say things, I make sure that I can back up what I say. And I make sure that I stand by what I say. And if I don't stand by it, then number one, I won't say it, or I will publicly say, I've done a U-turn, this is why, and, I'll be very honest about that. But I think that, as long as you are honest in your opinions, then you should say what you want to say. And this kind of similar to the other question that you asked, because I think that what I'm not responsible for is other people's emotions. So I will say something which is factual, or I will even just say my opinion. And other people are responsible for how they take that. So, if what I wrote is a fact, but it upsets somebody's feelings, there's nothing I can do about that. Facts don't care about your feelings, as Ben Shapiro says.
Roman, did you say all of your content is German language?
Excuse me,
is your content provided in foreign language or English?
No, it's only in German.
It's only in German. So what particular challenges do you have in providing content in German language? Are you ever tempted to think, I would maybe want to translate this into English to get to a wider audience? And the reason I ask is because people come to me and they say, oh, it'd be great if we had subtitles, say, in Spanish. Or are you like, no, I can just own the German audience? And
So I think we have great content in English, like what Bitcoin did. Yeah? So I think it's a filled field. But in the German audience, a lot of people don't talk English so well. So it's very difficult to understand the English topics. And for me, it's like, so I don't read books, I don't watch content from other content creators and so on, because everything I try to explain to my audience is learned from scratch. So like I'm learning physics, I'm learning economy and all these things, and just give my knowledge to the people, and everything I tell them is from my mind. And I think this is only really good in your natural language and your mother language. Like there's a passion you can't bring in English or in a foreign language. And I think for the German community, I think it's a quite big community and quite strong community. And I think it's a perfect fit. So I don't have the need to get more audience by going in the international space. We thought about this many times, but we decided to stay in German only. But I like the English-speaking community. I like to connect to them, but not for making content. It's more like sharing ideas and possibilities to bring Bitcoin in the wide society, bright masses. Yeah.
I've got no idea how long we've got left because there's no clock here. If someone can find out, that would be useful. Because what's that? 5 minutes? 10 minutes. 10 minutes. All right. I'm going to ask another question, and then I think I'll open it up to the floor if anyone wants to. If not, then I'll go back. Aubrey, everybody in here might consume anyone's audience here, and some of them might be content creators themselves. But for like those who aren't, like tell people something about being a content creator that they don't know about, that maybe will help them empathize with some of the challenges we have.
Yeah, I actually, Layah, you made an interesting comment about it's a business too. So I think when you get into content creation, you either you can have two approaches to it. A lot of people who are creative want to create content too. It is very difficult to be a content creative person and also running a business, because at the end of the day, your content has to be successful. So I think if you're interested in creating content, that's something that you need to be mindful of, but also reserve time to really strategize and think about what you want to be doing and how you can be making it different. Because I do think a lot of the podcasts, not all the podcasts on this stage, but a lot of them in the Bitcoin space can get very similar. We've seen a lot of the same episodes over and over again. So what makes your podcast stand out, and what brings in a different audience? Because at the end of the day, we all have the same goal, right? We're trying to get Bitcoin adoption. We're trying to get more people in. How do you talk to more people that are not being spoken to? And there was an interesting survey that came out a little bit ago that was talking about how like 56% of Gen Z is considering Bitcoin in their retirement plan, and then like 54 millennials, and then 20% Gen X, and boomers were like way down. But that's something to be interested in too. It's like, who are we talking to now? We're talking to this younger audience, and a lot of them have been living their lives digitally already, and so it's not that hard to convince them. But who is your audience? You need to be really clear on who that audience is, because you can try to bring everyone in, but you need to know who you're talking to at the end of the day. So I would say those two things.
Right. If anyone wants to ask a question, we will allow that now. But can I recommend coming up so everyone can hear you, and I'll just pass the mic to you. Do you want to come up?
Well, first of all, thank you, all of you, for being here. My question here is to you, Layah. Me and my team, we would like to have a short meeting with you to discuss some business idea we have.
Do you have a question?
And how can we arrange for that meeting?
I'll be here afterwards.
Okay, thank you.
All right, this isn't speed dating. Does anyone actually have a question? Yeah, please, come on.
It's really nice to see all of you in person. That's really cool. I've been following you all and seeing what you're doing, and it's great to see you in person. My question is, as content creators in crypto are really excited about Web3 and the blockchain and all that stuff. So as Bitcoiner content creators that are aware of true decentralization and true ownership of your data and your information, what excites you about Web3, and what do you think are the right platforms or the right next steps for you to own your content? Because ultimately we're still on Web2, Twitter, YouTube, platforms. So what excites you about Web3 as Bitcoiners?
Nothing. It's a marketing scam. Roman, what about you? Sorry, by the way, just as somebody who lived through Web 1 and 2, I had a web business. Web 2 was a retrospective. It happened, and then it got labeled Web 2. People who are labeling Web 3 are basically people who've got something to sell. I think John Carvalho in the previous session did a great job. And when somebody's got something to sell and they're trying to brand the whole web, it's obviously bollocks. But
yeah, so I think if you want to grow as a content creator that doing Bitcoin only, the difficulty is to earn money with this, because you need money. Just with money you can grow and reach more people. So money is our language, like the fundament of a society. And Bitcoin companies, in most cases, don't have that much money. So honest Bitcoin companies, not like, oh, we do leverage trading and all the shit. We also sell Bitcoin, so promote our platform. So this is shit. And I think if you really go the honest way, there's just a small gap on companies you can work with. And that's the hardest part, to earn money and being honest and authentic with your content. So, but I think there is a gap, and I think these companies, Bitcoin-only companies, will get more money in the future because the Bitcoin topic is growing and growing, and it's good to have a nice plan and a good position in this space for growing with them. So, yeah, that's one point, I think.
Layah, how do you deal with Web3 and shitcoins?
Sorry, say that again?
How do you approach Web3 and shitcoins?
Yeah, it is a good question. Thank you for that. Yeah, Web3.
All Web3 projects have a shitcoin. Every single one. I mean, like, accept it what it is. It's fine. It's peer-to-peer bullshit.
Yeah, but all these projects tend to have a token, right? And that's why they then have shitcoins. Okay, how do we do this? So my take is, it kind of scares me right now, Web3, because the idea is to create something better than these centralized platforms like Twitter and YouTube, who keep censoring and deplatforming and all these things, right? But I don't think Web3 is going to get there. It's becoming incredibly centralized. Companies are buying up other companies, creating monopolies. And really, I just think Web3 is going to be Web2, but on the blockchain, owned by all these centralized entities. I genuinely believe that. And so I'm personally excited about what's going to be built on Bitcoin, as you said, something that's only truly decentralized. So I'm excited about that. I'm not that excited about Web3. I genuinely think it could be dangerous just because of the level of centralization that I'm seeing right now.
Lina, are we going to see little hodlers in the metaverse with little hodler coin?
That would be the end of me. I am not interested in Web3, as you said. I think it's a buzzword. You talked about owning your content, and I think you need to be aware that if you use Twitter, if you use YouTube, Instagram, whatever, there's always a chance you get deplatformed. So for a content creator, you got to make sure that you diversify. Like what Bitcoin did is on YouTube, it's on your website. I think you have it on Spotify, you have it on multiple platforms. If you get attacked and deplatformed from all of them, you can still host your own website and have it there, right? The thing is, these platforms have the network effect. But if you build your audience, they will follow you. At least, you might not reach as many new people if you get, banned from Twitter or whatever. But you still have your audience there. And another thing is, you already own your content. If I go now and I make what Bitcoin did, people will be like, that's not you. Like, you're not Peter McCormack.
They'll probably prefer it.
If Peter McCormack goes and makes a little hodler, people will be like, that's not your thing. So there's people who take my comics and then they Photoshop their shitcoin on it. And, it doesn't fly. Because first of all, it makes no sense because the concepts, the stories only work for Bitcoin. And then also, people know it's not theirs, it's mine. So I already own the content. Whether people ask me if I make it into NFTs and if I sell my comics as an NFT. If you wanted to do that, if you wanted to buy a comic as an NFT from me, it wouldn't give you anything. It wouldn't give you ownership, wouldn't give you copyright. You couldn't resell it as merchandise. It's still mine. So you can buy a comic. You can right-click, save my comics, you can put it on your Twitter for all I care. Actually, I'd like that as long as you don't appropriate it and say that's mine. Right? But we already own the content as a content creator. It's about how you build your brand. If it's your brand, people associate you with it, or people recognize the brand, then it'll work.
Right, we've got about a minute. Sorry, we've got about a minute. Someone want to ask a question, and we'll give it to Aubrey.
Thank you. As content creators, are there any topics which you definitely wouldn't touch? Layah, you've been really vocal with Andrew Tate and your support for Andrew Tate, and Lina, you just touched on it there. You don't want to be deplatformed, but is there anything that you just think, this isn't for me, I won't go there?
Want to go, Aubrey?
Okay. Well, I do just want to say one more thing on Web3. I feel
Okay.
I've tweeted this before, but I do feel like Web3 was just something that Andreessen did so that you can add another like zero on your pitch deck, basically, and get more funding for. But I would love to talk about that more. For the Andrew Tate question, thank you for your question. I mean, Bitcoiners believe in free speech. And I think that if we're creating content where there's anything that you won't talk about, that's like a red flag for me, at least. It's why can't we talk about this? Obviously, there's things that just don't apply naturally, so you just wouldn't talk about them because it has nothing to do with the content you're creating. But if there's something timely or controversial and you're afraid of talking about it for the fear of being canceled, I totally don't believe in that. I don't believe in cancel culture, so yeah.
How are we doing? Layah, do you want to answer that as well?
Thank you for your question. Love the British accent. Nice to hear it. So again, it just comes back to having purpose and integrity and having things that you care about. Like, I support Andrew Tate because I believe in what he says. He wants to empower men to be better. As a woman, I'd love to see men be better, right? Like, it kind of goes without saying. I won't get into that. So, yeah, I mean,
Do you not think he's a scammer?
Why would he be a scammer?
Well, his whole university thing, where it's basically a scam.
Can you elaborate on how it's basically a scam? Because that's a big accusation.
So he's creating a controversial content, driving people to his website and signing people up for substandard products, which are basically shit.
Well, I think basically shit is an opinion. And a lot of people find a lot of value from his content. Maybe it is substandard, but that's your opinion. A lot of people have made a lot of money. And he's clearly a very intelligent individual. And I think he knows what he's doing. Nobody's forcing you to buy it. You could say university's basically a scam. That's a lot more expensive. And I spent 3 years at university, and that was a load of shit.
No, I agree on both.
Right, but at least with Andrew, it's like $50 a month or whatever it is. Pay it, don't pay it. Right now, they're selling liberal arts degrees, which can't really get you very far. And they're asking for loads and, millions on that after all the interest and all that crap. So with regards to what is there content that I wouldn't touch, if I care about it, I'm going to speak about it. There is some content that I'm very careful about and I don't like to talk about, and I'll be honest with you. I don't really like to get too deep into the trans stuff, mainly because it can be a very toxic space online, and I do believe I will get deplatformed, and I don't really want to get deplatformed. However, when I do see something which goes against my morals, like drag queen story hour and, adults behaving sexually in front of children, I will tweet about that and I will speak up about that. But overall, I do tend to, try and stay away, because there is a fine line that you do have to balance.
I think we're done on time. We might have overrun. An amazing panel. Can we give them a huge round of applause?